a YouTuber by the name of Logical Checkmate tuned me into this particular video by a YouTuber named Miss Chansi Long. And his concern was that this particular YouTube video of Kyle Rittenhouse has been sort of overlooked and neglected, and that it was actually purposefully done. He's probably right. At any rate, I was going to go ahead and play this for you and make some commentary on it. It does introduce some very interesting elements of that night, and they don't make Joseph Rosenbaum look very good. Well, he was already looking pretty bad, but you watch this video and it gives a little bit of insight into what Joseph Rosenbaum was trying to do by taking that rifle from Kyle. Hello out there. I am trying to get through.
With his powerful brainwaves cradled in the warmth of reasoning, it's time for Johnnie Walker Dread to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's the Johnnie Walker Dread Show.
I made this video for another channel, but that channel got banned by YouTube last night. So here I am on my YouTube platform of 4 subscribers to try to correct a false narrative that mainstream news outlets are recklessly peddling as truth. The Washington Post, NPR, ABC, etc. are all using language like mass shooter and white supremacist to describe the Kyle Rittenhouse shooting, despite having zero evidence of these claims.
Okay, just as a note that she's absolutely right. The mainstream media, and these are your trusted sources, CNN, ABC, MSNBC, have jumped to conclusions and completely convicted this kid without even looking at the evidence.
I've compiled a video based on live stream footage readily available to all of us to present a more accurate narrative. Please watch this in its entirety. Set aside your political leanings. Think about the truth. You will see a prison-hardened man as he chases, lunges at, and tries to take Rittenhouse's gun. Whether Rittenhouse should have been at this riot is a question for another time. Right now, I am focusing on the distorted and dangerous idea that Rittenhouse is a mass shooter who unloaded on a crowd of peaceful protesters.
Yes, and so she's saying that, why was he there? Why was Kyle Rittenhouse there? Should he have been there? It's irrelevant. What matters is, what was the motive for Joseph Rosenbaum to attack Kyle Rittenhouse?
Major news outlets are taking creative liberties describing the aggressors as peaceful and the one running away as a villain. Here is video evidence to challenge this notion, so please watch and ask yourself why most mainstream outlets aren't showing you this material. Kyle Rittenhouse's first victim, or objectively speaking, his first attacker, was Joseph Rosenbaum. Rosenbaum, age 36, was a convicted child rapist. I don't know what he did exactly, but it was third-degree sexual misconduct in Arizona. So either he had sex with a child under age 12, or he used physical force or drugs during the attack.
I looked at the actual charges at one point that were provided by Kenosha County I. The children were ages 9 to 11, and he basically raped them.
While in prison, Rosenbaum committed several infractions, many of them violent crimes, among them arson, which you'll see later was something he still enjoyed doing.
Okay, so a little backstory that a lot of people have sort of missed out on. One, Kyle Rittenhouse claimed that he helped stop a church from being burned to the ground. Ryan Balch, in a separate interview, claimed that he and Kyle confronted Joseph Rosenbaum when he was trying to burn down a church, and that Joseph Rosenbaum threatened to kill either one of them if he caught them alone. Ryan Balch is not a pro-Kyle person. He doesn't seem to have a lot of respect for Kyle Rittenhouse. He's certainly not out there trying to defend him. But according to their testimony, Rosenbaum was trying to burn a church, and Kyle and Ryan Balch showed up on the scene and really angered Joseph Rosenbaum. There he is. That's Joseph Rosenbaum. Sweet disposition. The man right there behind him is Josh Zeminski. He is just about as nasty as Joseph Rosenbaum is, and he also played a major role in what happened. It was Josh Zeminski that pointed out Rosenbaum and basically told Rosenbaum to go get him.
Kyle Rittenhouse, age 17, no criminal record that I can find. On the day of the shooting, he volunteered as a lifeguard at the Kenosha community pool. Afterward, he went to the local high school where he cleaned riot graffiti from the school building. When he was done cleaning graffiti, a relative of a friend asked Kyle and his friend if they would help him guard his business, as many local businesses in Kenosha had been lit on fire during the riots the night before.
We're not really quite sure how Kyle ended up protecting that property, which is quite a ways away from any of the protest action. In fact, Ryan Balch, who stumbled upon Kyle, mentioned that they seemed to be very far away from any of the aggression and were likely not to actually encounter any. Later, Kyle goes with Ryan to a mechanic shop that's a bit closer to the action. Then the police push the protesters into their area. This is not what the mainstream media is telling you, but it is on videotape.
Rittenhouse did travel out of state to Kenosha. He lived in Antioch, Illinois, a neighboring community of about 14,000 people, which was about 20 miles away. Rittenhouse was a trained medic. At the Kenosha protest/riot, he offered his services to injured Black Lives Matter protesters.
So just to tell you about the stupidity of the people who were out to get Kyle Rittenhouse for this murder deal, they were claiming that he was wearing gloves so that when he had powder on him from shooting people, he could dispose of the gloves. You gotta be kidding me. There have been some incredibly dumb arguments made. I have a whole collection of them that you can watch on your own. I have 23 or 24 of them done right now, and there's more coming because the anti-Kyles keep making dumber and dumber arguments.
We're protecting from the citizens, and I just got pepper sprayed by a person in the crowd.
So you had non-lethal, but you didn't respond.
We don't have non-lethal.
Okay, so that part up until where Kyle said we don't have non-lethal was edited out by mainstream media.
So you guys are full on ready to defend the property?
Yes, we are. Now, if I can ask, can you guys step back? Medical, EMS right here.
Okay, the part where he goes out to help an injured protester was cut by mainstream media. They only kept the middle part where he claimed that he had no non-lethal to make it look like he was bragging about it. And this was done on purpose. You can bank on it.
There's a medic right here.
So Kyle says, I am EMT, I'm a medic. It seems as if he's using the term EMT as sort of a synonym for just simply first aid provider or something like that. If he was actually trying to tell people he was an EMT, it's a misdemeanor in Wisconsin. He was never charged for that crime anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
EMT, what is it? She got shot in the foot. Shot in the shot? All right, we're going to go over here behind cover. I need cover, I need cover!
So he's sort of boasting out, I am EMT. If you're injured, talk to me. Yeah, he's 17 years old, and he probably feels like he is doing real adult stuff here. Keep in mind, he's only 4 months away from his 18th birthday. But he is clearly sort of walking with his chest out a little bit. So what? He's 17 years old. We all wanted to be like that when we were 17. Oh, except the anti-Kyles. They were angels. So she puts in there, medic, I am EMT. If you are injured, talk to me. Kyle said that all night. It wasn't just here. He walked up and down the streets of Kenosha yelling, medic, looking for people to help. How much of this was a real concern for helping people and how much of this was just sort of making himself feel better? I don't know, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, he was out there trying to help people, even if it was maybe for a little bit of selfish reasons. It doesn't really make any difference. He certainly wasn't out looking for a confrontation. In fact, we can follow him for hours at night, and he at no point ever tries to provoke or confront anyone. The same cannot be said for Jojo Rosenbaum. By the way, we should also mention something else about Joseph Rosenbaum. Yes, he did rape, I think it was, I can't remember the number of boys, but they were ages 9 to 11. He was also a domestic abuser. In fact, he had just gotten into jail for beating his fiancée, and beat her pretty bad too. At one point during the call, she said she couldn't stop the bleeding. So it was a pretty vicious beating. He also has a meth problem, or he had one. He had a heroin problem, a meth problem, and he was psychotic. He was in the mental hospital earlier that day and was released. He told his fiancée that he was going to go to this protest. She told him not to do it. And she even said, I don't know why he went. We know why he went. He was picking for a fight, and we know that. All night long, he is on video trying to start a fight.
Before we get into the events leading up to the shooting, I need to point out that there is an armed civilian who looks like Kyle but is not Kyle.
Yeah, I don't think anybody has identified this person yet. The law might have, but this person's dressed kind of like Kyle, and I don't want to hear any crap that it's obvious it's not Kyle. There were plenty of people making observations about what took place that night and commenting that this was Kyle. It's not Kyle, but Joseph Rosenbaum thinks it is.
Armed civilians stand in front of this gas station to prevent rioters from catching it on fire. Protesters voice their concern at having so many visible guns there. Rioters, particularly Joseph Rosenbaum, began to promote violence against the armed civilians. So at about 11, rioters light a fire in a dumpster. Then they attempt to roll it toward the gas station.
Okay, so there's Joseph Rosenbaum. He's trying to roll a burning dumpster into a gas station. Somebody puts out the fire, not Kyle. One mistake that she makes here is that she thinks that Kyle is here, even though there has been another person that's been misidentified as Kyle. She still thinks that Kyle's here. Kyle's not here. He's, I think, at the mechanic shop, but he's certainly not on this property.
Armed civilians then extinguish the fire, which enrages the rioters, particularly Joseph Rosenbaum.
Yeah. Why do you do that? Oh, I don't know. It's a burning dumpster, and this is a gas station. That would be a good reason, I think, to put out a fire. Now, pay attention to this kid here. His behavior is what people thought Kyle was doing all night. He is what I would call nearly brandishing that weapon. But here's what's interesting. I don't think that this is a militia person. I think this might be part of the BLM security. It's hard to say. Now, in a moment, you'll see a girl walk right by him. Watch. See her? Tell me how terrified she is of those rifles. A bunch of people tried to put forth a lawsuit that these people terrified them that night, and they even had panic attacks when they went home. There's nobody here scared of anybody. They're walking around. She walked right by him and didn't even flinch. There's Rosie.
Remember that guy I said looks like Kyle but is not Kyle? This is when that detail begins to matter. At one
Yeah, it looks as if Rosenbaum thinks that's Kyle.
point, Rosenbaum accuses the individual who looks like Kyle, but is not Kyle, of pointing a gun at him. As I learned from Donut Operator's YouTube take on this, Kyle seems to be the one who fetched a fire extinguisher to put out the fire.
A little bit of a mistake here. Kyle is running with the fire extinguisher, not at this time. It occurred a little bit later. And he had heard that there were burning cars further down the street. He grabs the fire extinguisher and runs down that way. When he's about maybe an eighth of a mile down the street, he runs into Joseph Rosenbaum and Joshua Zeminski. And Joshua Zeminski is going to point out to Joseph Rosenbaum, there, get him.
Next, I'm going to show the next scene from about 3 different angles. I want you to pay particular attention to Joseph Rosenbaum and the individual in the green shirt who looks like Kyle but is not Kyle.
Shoot me, nigga! Shoot me, nigga! Bust on me, nigga, for real!
Okay, common mistake. And I saw it tonight on Twitter. A dumb argument. And gosh, the anti-Kyles do nothing but spew out dumb arguments because they're misinformed. They haven't taken the time to understand what took place that night. And so they base everything off of the shallow interpretations and conjecture put out by mainstream media. People have thought that Kyle shot Joseph Rosenbaum because Joseph Rosenbaum kept saying, shoot me, shoot me. That's not Kyle. It's somebody else. By the way, it looks to me like he's carrying something like a 308 or a 270. That's a deer rifle with a scope on it. Completely worthless in these kind of situations. What is the best weapon to have in this situation? AR-15. Although a 9mm semi-automatic isn't bad, but you don't want a rifle here. It's looks like it's bolt action even. So he's going to get one shot off and then get mobbed. Yeah, I think that's a bolt action rifle. I mean, it would not be useful in this kind of circumstance at all. It'd just get you in a lot of trouble. Okay, so does it look like Joseph Rosenbaum is out there to protest? Does it look like he is out there to stand up for BLM? Looks to me like he's just wanting a fight.
Look, he ran off. He ran off like a little bitch. Where he at? Where he at? That's some soft ass shit.
It's not clear to me that they are talking about Kyle, because I think the scene with the fire extinguisher took place later. Now, I could be wrong, but my understanding of it was that the scene with the fire extinguisher took place pretty well after this event.
You're gonna get us all shot.
Rosenbaum is so out of control that even the local BLM are trying to stop him. He's psychotic. People say that he wasn't able to take his meds that day because they closed down the drugstore because of the riots. His fiancée seems to think otherwise, that he was able to get his medicine. I don't know. I'd hate to see what he's like when he's off his medicine. This man is really, really insane. He needs a whooping. Kyle's going to give him one.
Yo, you calm him down?
Keep calm. Keep calm.
Don't point no motherfucking gun at me, homie. I'm mine. Fuck you and that.
Now, Rosenbaum is claiming, don't point no gun at me, but he thinks he's talking to Kyle. That's what I think happened.
Everything you got, shoot me, nigga.
As the rioters try to reignite their fire, the armed civilians try to put it out.
Bust on me, nigga, for real.
Assault. That's assault, possibly with a deadly weapon.
This rioter becomes so angry that he pulls out his handgun and loads the chamber.
Yeah, that's brandishing there. Let me get back. Maybe not. It depends on the legal definition of brandishing in Wisconsin. So possibly that's not. I don't know.
Don't focus on them. Don't focus on them.
At this moment, this is important. I'm going to go back and play this again. Watch what Joseph Rosenbaum says. Now, there's a question. Is it JoJo? I think it is. It sure sounds like him. But let's take a look. Listen.
Don't focus on them. Don't focus on them.
I say we jack them and take they guns. So, jacking them, I'm sure, doesn't mean thank them, greet them, exchange condolences. I have a feeling that jack them means seriously bodily injure them. That's what jack them means. And what is the standard in self-defense in Wisconsin? It's not that you have to fear your life is in danger. You have to fear serious bodily injury. That's the standard. And Rosenbaum is saying, I say we jack them and take they guns. What did Rosenbaum later that night do? He tried to take Kyle's gun. So he's saying, light that up, light it up. He likes to burn. I mean, he's an arsonist. Okay, the man there with the gun, you see it there? This man, that's Joshua Zeminski, and that's his wife, I'm sure of it. That's right next to him. They are going to be central figures in what takes place later. When Kyle is walking by himself down a street, it's Zeminski and his wife who point out Kyle to Rosenbaum and basically tell Rosenbaum, get him. They think it's the other protester. Pretty sure of it. And yes, Zeminski will be arrested for some of his actions that night. One of those is felony arson. It was Zeminski that fired the first shot when Rosenbaum was chasing Kyle. And that is probably what caused Kyle to have to turn around and face this threat. If you're running from somebody, but you hear a gunshot go off, you better spin around and take care of the threat because you're not going to outrun a bullet. So somebody's saying, burn the police station, don't burn the city. Burn the police station. Yeah, this is a peaceful protest, according to mainstream media. And it was peaceful until Kyle showed up with his rifle. And then he caused all this mayhem. Burn the police station. That's not Rosenbaum, but...
The next footage that I have of Rosenbaum is when he is chasing Kyle Rittenhouse from
White
behind.
boys. Yeah, that's Antifa, man. Oh, we got it.
Okay, so she didn't capture the very earlier moments. Right before that, in one of my other videos, I show it. Right before that, you can see Joseph Rosenbaum start to attack Kyle, and Joshua Zeminski is pointing him out. And that's when Kyle begins to flee. There is nothing captured there that indicates that Kyle provoked anything. Furthermore, it doesn't even matter, because even if Kyle provoked the argument or provoked the fight by fleeing, he reestablishes his right to self-defense. I covered that very thoroughly in one of my other videos where I discuss self-defense laws in Wisconsin.
The gun, baby. Oh, he shot him.
Now I'm going to slow it down to point out a very curious thing. Notice how everyone in this frame runs after hearing the first gunshot. But both of these people, a tall man and a shorter figure walking together, have a casual, nonchalant gait. Even after the next blast of gunfire, they continue to saunter as normal. This reveals that the gunshot in the air was not a spontaneous thing, but a strategic behavior of some kind. The chaos that erupts after fails to disturb them. It's that first gunshot that begins to take this encounter into fatal proportions.
And keep in mind, I think maybe another reason why they didn't flinch much from all the gunfire, I think they're stoned. But you can see him, that's Joshua Zeminski. He's pulling out a gun and he's going to fire it.
Fleeing from his assailant, Rittenhouse hears this close-range gunshot and knows he can't run away from a bullet. With his back to the shot, he's thinking they're shooting at him, and even though we know they aren't, we also know that there are nefarious motives afoot. Rittenhouse
Makes no difference after the fact whether you find out whether your attacker meant good or not. Makes no difference whatsoever. The motive of the attacker has no bearing on self-defense. What matters is what you reasonably believed was going to happen to you if you didn't take action.
turns and still doesn't shoot until Rosenbaum grabs at his weapon, at which point he shoots him. If you're still not convinced that Joseph Rosenbaum intended to harm Kyle Rittenhouse, let's look at the way in which he concealed his face before this attack.
You will notice that Rosenbaum's face is now wrapped up with his red t-shirt. He had been unmasked for all previous footage, but now suddenly his face is wrapped in a red t-shirt to obscure it.
In conclusion,
I even heard some dummies say, people from COVID, he wasn't wearing it all night. It was only after he was chasing Kyle. I guess he was wanting to make sure that he didn't give Kyle COVID, or he didn't get COVID from Kyle. Right.
I'll remind you of a statement from Rosenbaum himself earlier in the night. This was not an idle comment, but something he attempted and failed to orchestrate.
When you listen to it, it really does sound like that's Joseph Rosenbaum's voice.
And the mass media is using him to further divide us. I will end this video with a call to action. Quit getting your news on these events from the mass news networks. There are loads of reporters who are actually present on the front lines of these protests. They are on Twitter. There are tons of them. Elijah Schaefer, Drew Hernandez, Julio Rosas. Go to these people. They are there. They are good people. They are not trying to manipulate the information to get you to think a certain way. They are giving you raw footage. So I encourage you, please, please stop listening to this inaccurate narrative of Kyle Rittenhouse as a mass shooter. He was not a mass shooter. He was an individual who was attacked.
Like my video and subscribe to my channel. And check out her channel. This is Chansi Long. She's done an excellent job here. And I also want to thank Logical Checkmate for bringing this to my attention. He has his own video of this where he basically focuses on those words that Joseph said about jacking them up and taking their guns. So at any rate, subscribe to my channel, and I got more of these coming.